Good afternoon. It's 5 p.m. and time for the regularly scheduled December 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Natchitoches Parish School Board. Board members and visitors, please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices as not to interrupt the meeting. Thanks for that cooperation. A couple of more housekeeping items. We're required by law to televise the meeting, so please speak directly into your microphone so the public can hear everything being said. We've had some complaints that we have some low speaking board members. Ms. Revels, can we have a roll call for attendance?
Mr. Danzy?
Here.
Mr. Matuire?
Here.
Mr. Benefield?
Here.
Mr. Harris? Mrs. McGaskey? Ms. Palmer? Ms. Phelps?
Here.
Ms. Harvey? Here. Mr. Fredu? Mr. Nicholson?
Here.
And Ms. Page?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Good deal. Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to tap this gavel even though we're not in a specified meeting. We are in a committee meeting. Superintendent Eloy, can you start with your update, sir?
Yes, sir. So, pretty quick turnaround from our November meeting. Apologies, and with the Thanksgiving break, not a ton to report. But if you recall, the day before scores came out was our last board meeting. So, although it's all out there and we all know it, I did want to reiterate some of the great news we had. Again, we moved up another 1.9 points. Still on that trajectory to get us to an A, although we'll have to see what the state has in store for us with the new accountability system. But still on that journey. But the big news is, last year we removed all F schools. This year we removed all D and F schools. Also moved from 43rd a few years back to number 27 in the state. So just good news all around. Removed a ton of those ESSA labels that had been hounding us for a while. I don't have this on complete authority, but I don't believe there's another school district in the state that has removed a greater percentage of the ESSA labels. Perhaps more raw data, but not in terms of a percentage. Also, the other big thing that's happened between last meeting and now is we did have the culmination of that special tax session. So just to give you a few tidbits on the things that we were looking at that would affect us. Income tax, those were put at the flat rates. It doesn't really have a big impact on us except for the fact that all of our employees will see a reduction in the amount they're taxed by the state. So that's exciting, and that'll happen, I believe, effective January 1. The bigger issue was the sales tax. The governor was trying to expand that significantly. He failed in that attempt, although he did expand it to some degree, specifically in the digital streaming area. So we cautiously optimistic, but we anticipate that that should mean this time next year when those collections start coming in that we should see an increase in collections just based on that additional or expansion of the sales tax base.
So we need everyone to sign up for Netflix, Disney, Hulu.
Yeah, stop
all that.
sharing each other's accounts and just spring for it yourself.
Well, the NFL has done their part. You have to have this for Monday night, this for Thursday night, and something else for Sunday, so they've done their part.
Yes, sir. They also expanded the state sales tax, which, again, does not impact our collections, but everyone will see. You'll see that reduction in income tax. You'll see an increase in sales tax, but that's from the state. The other piece, though, is we are still waiting for the constitutional amendment election, which will determine if they are going to absorb those three funds that we spoke on last time. If they absorb those funds, then a lot of our springtime will be, not a lot of it, but we will be bringing to you a new salary schedule in the spring like we routinely do. But if that passes, we will be bringing you a salary schedule that will have a permanent raise for teachers and support personnel, because in that, the idea is that the savings that will create for the district in law will then have to be applied to permanent raises for teachers and staff. So that's exciting. We won't know if that's a reality until that vote occurs. Also, in that vote, we'll know if the inventory tax is going to be brought to parishes. Remember, though, with the inventory tax, part of the kind of the the balancing game was we would see increased revenue from the expansion of sales tax, which would help out with some of the inventory tax. Well, without that expansion or the large expansion that was promised, the inventory tax would just be a hit. So again, that's going to be a discussion that if it goes through the constitutional amendment, then it's a discussion between the school board, the sheriff's department, and the city to determine if we want to forego inventory tax. If we were to forego that, you get a one-time lump sum based on your previous collections. That's supposed to be a lump sum that equals your 3 years prior to. So, a lot of stuff going on with the state that will potentially impact us, and then obviously some great news for our schools. The other piece was 6A schools now, as opposed to a few years back we only had the two. The two new ones on the block being Provençal and Marthaville. And then we also want to recognize our schools that increased a letter grade, LP Vaughan, Weaver, and East. So a lot of good stuff to go around. Perfect kind of transition to the holiday season, I think. So that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Superintendent. A lot of hard work by a lot of Natchitoches Parish School Board employees to get to that point. The whole school, it's not one person. And the board, we provide the gas in the tank, but everyone else has to make it work. We're going to roll down to the consent agenda, and we have an out-of-state travel. We'll consider next Tuesday night, and also an out-of-state travel for Ms. Linda Page to do some recruiting in Pennsylvania. Someone please remind Ms. Page that it snowed a foot in Pennsylvania last week.
Mr. Benefield, real quick on that, I do want to highlight that real quick. The reason that says Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's where we're going. But that was a trip that Ms. Page and some staff took about 6 years ago now. 9 years ago, I'm sorry. And that was I think one of, if not the largest teacher recruitment job fairs in the nation. And last time they went, I believe they brought back six teachers. So it's not just, Pittsburgh. There's a reason behind this. So.
Well, maybe it will snow and they'll come south. So great. Okay. Moving on to the informational reports, Ms. Page, anything to add other than what you have listed? Okay.
And I spoke to Mr. Shirley and asked him to be at the next board meeting. Also, board members realized the quick turnaround. Most of those are going to be on the next meeting, and also sales tax wasn't able to get on in a timely fashion either.
Good deal. All right, so let's take a moment for our informational report. Superintendent, will you take one and pass the rest down? Mr. Danzy, will you take one and pass it down? We had board members who were nice enough to complete this, and I really appreciate them doing it. Okay. Everyone have one in front of them to look at? Okay. So we evaluated, for members of the public that are listening in, we evaluated ourselves as a board and to see where areas of improvement are. And there was a couple that were low. And I'm not going to say low. I mean, they were lower than some, but they were all just under 4. Question number 11, which was board members do not attempt to individually speak on behalf of the board or commit the board. So we do have that one. That's a little bit lower than some of them. And then we had some 2s in there. And then on the back side, we had another 3.3, which was question number 42. Members of the board refrain from speaking for the board on issues which the board has no official position. And so we need a little action in that area. We scored a 3.3. Still good, but, there's just some areas to work on. Again, any comments based on those 2 scores?
Can we talk for a minute about exactly what that means? What those 2 questions were,
Sure.
like in
I would
Maybe
like you to
some-
lead that discussion. It'd be great.
Yeah, do you have a copy of the question?
I do, right here.
And it was 11?
It was question number 11 and question number 42.
Okay. So question number 11 is board members do not attempt to individually speak on behalf of the board or commit the board. And I know that we've had a couple of things come up in the past, I would say at least within the last couple of years, where we have board members that make public statements on behalf of the board. And I was made aware of it from, other committee member or community members coming to me and say, hey, I didn't know the board felt this way. And so like anytime we speak in public about an issue, it comes across as us speaking for the whole board. And so I think that's why maybe that was scored a little bit low.
Well, you can actually see there's two or three board members that scored it a two. So it was, yeah, you're right. They recognize that fact. And the other was 42. Question 42.
Okay, members of the board refrain from speaking for the board on issues in which the board has no official position. And I remember this from a previous board, like the last 4 years, we had, there was something in the city that was very hot topic, and it had to do with housing, and it made it to our boardroom table, and it wasn't even our thing to vote on.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think this whole thing was really great for the board, so we can see where we all stand. So I'm glad that you did that, because it was kind of questions you've never really thought about before. I haven't thought about before. So I'm glad that you brought the evaluation instrument up. And so for the public consumption, this is us giving ourselves feedback,
Yeah.
which is very different. We've never done before.
And so, can you go to the last page and talk about some of the comments that we made regarding ourselves? Go ahead, Ms. Phelps.
Okay. So this is what we had to say about ourselves.
All right, now, great is hard.
Let's see. And these comments are found on the last page of the evaluation. We are improving but need to continue to work diligently on things. We're very proud of our board's hard work, but there's always room for improvement. This next comment is a little bit long, and it says, "This is my second term as a board member. We have worked hard as we all have clear vision for our district, working together, setting goals. Setting goals is one of the most vital signs of effective schools give shape to what action school boards will take during their terms. Focusing on student achievement in the school board is the school board members' top priority." And I think we've done really good with that, especially here lately, bringing the students in and even teachers who have won awards. That's amazing. We are the community's voice with public education, strategically using our existing resources. Managing resources will create more exposure for our board and in return the district. The board monitors progress using data. This helps keep the board on track and ensures that everything they do really does better the student experience. As school board members, this board understands our role is filled with significant responsibilities and the potential to make a profound impact on our community's future. It's a position that demands not only dedication, but also strategic approach to governance. I think the addition of the extra retreats would benefit the board. And I'm not sure who put that in there, but I totally agree with that. I think our board retreats have been extraordinary. We get a lot of work done, and we can kind of do it candidly, too, with a lot of honesty and honest feedback. There are problems to be solved, and retreats seem to be the best way for all cards to examine and discuss openly and honestly. And last comment, we do most things well as a board. We struggle while making the difficult decisions when it comes to financial responsibility. We have numerous decisions that are on the horizon that will shape the future of our district. So I feel like there was a lot of time put into that evaluation, and it was a great tool.
I appreciate all the board members just completing it, because, at first I thought it was going to take a while, but I saw Ms. Phelps knocked hers out in like 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Mr. Danzy said his was whatever. I appreciate the board members doing that, because, again, it's an investment of your time, but it's also an investment in us, and then also the students of this parish and the taxpayers. So we have another one here. It may not be as popular as the other. Yeah, I have several. I thought I had counted them all out right, but that doesn't mean that didn't happen.
That's all right, we'll just,
No, no, I've got
Are we doing
another.
this tonight? We're not doing this tonight.
No, you've already done it.
I'm understanding.
already
Never
done
mind,
it,
I'm
yeah.
good, I'm good.
You've already done it.
Yes, we're doing it right now.
I'm misunderstanding the assignment.
It is happening.
Okay. Final, this is the evaluation of the board president. And, 1 through 5 scoring process, average of 3.85, which is, in my opinion, pretty good, considering we have 11 different personalities on the board, and you know, everyone has a different perspective of what the board and the president should look like. We did have a low mark on, it was still fairly good, but it was 3.33 on communication. And I would like to open up for comments on, especially for the new board president, whoever that may be, to understand exactly what that communication piece may be. So can we get some help on that?
Myself personally, I would go back to the retreats again. I felt like the retreats were really a good way for everybody to speak openly and honestly. I felt like that was the best way to communicate, in my opinion.
Microphone.
Hi. What part wasn't heard? I thought the retreats were the most beneficial for myself when it came to discussing anything and communicating where we were going and what we were doing.
Okay. Any other comments on the communication piece? I mean, that's, all the rest of them are 3.5 and above.
Just to piggyback on what Ms. Page was saying, not only the retreats, I don't know, I also very much enjoy, and it's logistically sometimes a little easier, and I'd like to know how y'all feel about the 2 to 3 board member meetings. I know sometimes it's difficult to get away, but those I think are, I almost put them on almost on the same level as the board retreat, although it's a little more difficult because you're not all there. So
I think that's very important. And it's what my thoughts are on it.
Well, it came out of our last evaluation to ask to do that. So that, I mean, so that's what, again, that's what these evaluations are for. So how do we improve? Some of the comments, I see our president working harder on financial goals as to educational goals. I don't see them as mutually exclusive. Reason being is that we've got some tough things coming on the horizon, and the board president needs to make sure that he or she is in tune as to what the climate is going to look like, not just today, but down the future, because simply put, that we need to keep it in front of the board. There's some things, we're losing students, we know that. Almost every district in the state is losing students. They're closing schools simply because of it. We just need to make sure that we're doing the right thing, both educationally and financially. Any comments on that? Educational goals in our districts have turned into scores only. Does anyone care to comment on that? Okay. Discipline is, go ahead.
And I understand that scores are a priority. They make a difference when it comes to achievement for the school district overall. But I always had a concern with us making sure that we have sufficient staff to work with the teachers in the classroom setting where they're needed. Sometimes I know we've been a little short there when you have a teacher that has 20-plus kids and they don't have sufficient support staff. That's one of my main concerns. So we make sure that we can work with those kids that need to be, that have some educational challenges on a regular, ongoing, and I know it's not possible daily, but just make sure that all the kids that, because everybody don't have the same learning ability. You have kids that excel, some kids are good, and then you got some kids that have challenges. And I think that I'll go, and I think we have done better. I feel we've done better overall, but just make sure that we don't not get those kids the support that
Stop.
need.
Let's start talking to you, Mike.
Mike? Oh, I thought.
Yes, ma'am. So I'd love to, because I know you're always sensitive to that. And as you were saying that, and Miss Lacaz came in the room, I realized that I forgot to mention something to y'all earlier. And this is hot off the press, and it's something y'all haven't heard of yet. But we do a subgroup score of our students with exceptionalities, and this does not include our gifted students and things of that nature, but our students with exceptionality. So we're number 27 in the state overall for our SPS. And I'm getting goosebumps as I say this, but we're number 6 overall when you just have our students with exceptionalities. When you do their school performance score,
Wow.
number 6 in the state.
That's incredible.
And so, and I'm not going to name parishes because that'll get me in trouble, but some of the folks that we revere and people look at as the ones, when it comes to students with exceptionalities, we're kicking some behind. So that being said, we don't rest on our laurels. We're constantly trying to improve and see how we can make that even better. But that is one thing that it was a perfect opportunity for me to say that out loud. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I think that comment in and of itself, that the goals in our district have turned into scores only, I think we all realize the importance of scores, and that needs to be our top priority or one of our top priorities. But I think it's important that that people in the community don't believe that to be true, right? That people believe that we still value the whole experience of a child at the school, and that's not just a number. It's about more than that. And it's not a number, but we need to actively work to make sure that people in the community believe that when we say things like that.
I agree. I think what I've always said philosophically, number one, I've always liked accountability, and I think you and I share that sentiment because it tells you where you're at and how you're doing. That being said, I don't believe accountability and caring for a child are mutually exclusive because, like when I was in the classroom, I cared about my proficiency rate, but I also would be the person who was like, hey, this kid needs a pair of shoes. And I think you can be caring and holistic and not neglect scores and vice versa. That being said, we have to make sure that the messaging we're sending from the district doesn't make everyone so data-centric that we neglect the whole child. And when, I have a mentor that told me the best line I've ever heard in terms of being a high school principal, at least. He said, scores are great and all that. He said, but we're in the business of making memories, especially at the high school level. And I've always kept that with me because 20 years from now, the kid who graduates high school at Natchez Central this year, he's not going to remember, or she's not going to remember what their SPS was, but they'll remember those moments. So I think we have to be very careful of being aware, but also not making those two things mutually exclusive. So.
Good point, and thank y'all for those comments. We have another one. I felt our last meeting was orchestrated, and that offends me. Speak frankly to me, and don't play games. Any comment on that?
You missed the first one above it, because I had a question about that one.
Sorry. I'm skipping right ahead. Fast forward. We got stuck on that fast forward button again like we did. I'm sorry. Okay, discipline is soft, and that's never addressed. Okay.
A ton of questions about that.
Wait. First question is, why is that in the school board president's evaluation?
Right, are you supposed to be disciplining us?
Well, if I do that, I'm going to get an ethics violation if I walk into a school and crank down on a principal. So let's don't do that.
I was going to say, you're doing terrible at that. You are not disciplining us at all.
Go ahead. Oh,
No, that was it. Like, what discipline are you supposed to be doing?
I'm not sure, but I'm obviously not doing it. So here we go. Okay. Overall, I think you've been doing a very good job as our school board president. You're a masterful organizer, adept negotiator, unified spokesperson, task-oriented leader, and a visible face of the board, and a humble quarterback. Whoever wrote that, thank you very much. But, it takes a lot of courage for us to evaluate ourselves as far as a board, and it takes a lot of courage to throw this out there. But the thing is that as a board, we need to look at the areas where we are low, and we're not necessarily low, but lower than others. And this was a great opportunity for this to happen. We get later on in the agenda, we get to talk about the superintendent, and And Miss Phelps has looked forward to this all year.
All year.
It's my favorite day of the year, too.
Board members, thank you for taking the time to do this and go through this process with all of us. Okay, Ms. Phelps, can you take the report? And Ms. Tankey is absent?
Yes. Finance, Facility, Service, and Insurance Report, item 7A.
Whoa, wait a minute,
No?
stop. Golly, I'm kind of like the superintendent now.
You still fast forwarding?
Yeah, something. We moved too fast. Two things left. First is Louisiana School Board Association. You should have received an envelope at your house. If you're interested in running for a statewide position in one of the districts, and we do have one in District 5 open, you have a timetable that you have to meet, and you have to have your information in by certified letter by January 10, I believe it is. So just be aware of that. And last is Ms. Kanika passed out the audit form that you need for Code of Ethics. Do you want to cover that, Mr. Kanika?
That is standard paperwork that you guys have to do every year that we turn into the auditors. So Ms. Deborah Dunn asked me to please ask you all to fill that out, get it back to me as soon as possible. I imagine next Tuesday would be okay since this is a short week, but if you can, if you want to fill it out tonight, give it back to me, that's fine. Scan it, email, drop it off, whatever, but definitely by next Tuesday at the latest.
So Tuesday's the deadline.
Yes,
Okay.
I need to have those back.
Are you referencing this one or the one that we normally do on a?
No, the two forms that
Okay.
I laid out for you today.
Thank you.
Ms. Phelps, I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
No problem. Item 7A, discuss and consider approval of board member travel to COSBA Conference, March 20th through 23rd, 2025, to Atlanta, Georgia, at an estimated cost of $2,500 per board member.
And just to clarify, board members, I did the estimated cost based on tickets for the round trip flight as they were today for that date. It's also at a conference hotel, so the conference hotel price is set. And I assumed 4 days, you'd arrive on the 19th and leave on the 23rd. And I also did our rate of meal reimbursement and all of that. Oh, and registration, which we will get a discount on registration if you do it before for the early bird. You'd save $100 on that. So this was just a roundabout estimate. We don't believe it would exceed or come close really to 3,000, but 2,500 was kind of where it landed.
Okay, so anyone interested in that, what would be the process to move? Would Ms. Kanika coordinate that, or how would we do that?
So
In the past, she's done the LSBA, and the secretary did NSBA. Is that something that you feel comfortable doing, Ms.
In the
Kanika?
past, when you guys have traveled that far out and it required airline, the only thing I took care of for you was hotel and registration.
Okay. So we need to be clear on that. So if you're expecting to go or anticipating to go or want to go, you're gonna need to line up your own airfare. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
and that's a reimbursement. That's not a
Correct.
front loading.
Okay, but yeah, we just need to make sure we take care of that. So the expectation is we get close and there's no airfare. So, okay. So we have until, I think it was January what?
So
We have another meeting
Early-
next Tuesday, so we can get a little bit more information.
early bird closes sometime in December because I want to say the 16th, but I'm not. I remember that the second meeting is soon enough to where you can still get early bird. So if y'all vote,
Okay.
you'd be able to get it.
Has anybody been to this one yet?
So this is actually a new one. So COSBA has not been formed very long, and they took the position over, well, LSBA subscribes to COSBA now instead of the other organization that they're no longer a member of. So this is only maybe the second or third year that they've been in organization. Am I
Yeah.
right about that? And so, but prior to that, I know Mr. McTwire's been to the national conference before, and it's valuable information that comes from
It
it.
seems to be emulating the previous national
Right,
conference.
right.
Nationally, it was, it was a lot of information, and you could meet with vendors and different thing. And I always say, like, we had went to one when we first started with leasing the buses, and it was coming up for lease. And me and Miss Ms. Wilson was talking with different bus companies, where they didn't, it in our office had never put it out, but it was gonna be within 2 months that they was gonna have to send out a bid. So we wind up talking with these, bus vendors, and several of them bid it, and we wind up by talking with them saved, I think it was like $250,000 a year by just talking with these other bus vendors that they didn't even know nothing about, would have been even with that, and just, it's, if you've never been, go at least one time. It's very interesting to see, and then you're meeting with board members all over the country, you know, that you're meeting with them. And like one time we had board members from Thailand was meeting with us and stuff, and they say they get, like it with Thailand, they say they had the top of the top, you had waiting lists to get with teachers, but they start and pay with 6 figures. So if we could pay 6 figures, we'd have a waiting list too,
Yeah,
you know. But
absolutely.
it's very interesting, and they have very good speakers, and they're dealing with the education, and, you know, it's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's generally a keynote speaker that is a national-wide.
Yeah. One time we spoke, and I probably was from here to Mr. Wascom was from the Voice Bush.
George?
His wife.
Oh, yeah. Laura or Barbara?
Barbara. Yeah, she spoke to us, and she was just. You
And
see them on
she's
TV, you figure, you know, with that, and she was just down there. And after that,
She's a teacher too.
yeah, okay. And it was very. They have really good keynote speakers that speak to you, and you know, really nice people. But
So potentially, we could vote on this at the next meeting.
We need
and-
to vote on it.
And then decide who wants to go.
That's right.
And
because I'm seeing them what the email they sent us. I think today on it. It's early bird is
I think it's in December.
December. The early bird is
I saw it. I
December
read it.
20th.
And that will, like I said, save $100 per board
Yeah,
member.
we need to address it
It's
next
in our
month.
group message. I think Chad sent that to us when we were discussing this last week. If we'll go back and look at it, you'll see our early bird
think he did.
date on there.
But one of the LSBA members sent us an email on it.
That's what he forwarded us.
I think Ms. Robbins
Came
sent it.
today. Yeah, it actually was sent to us today.
I think Robbins sent something out on,
Today, yeah.
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, I believe our LSBA president is in line to be president of that organization. So we would be supporting Louisiana.
you mean she doesn't have enough to do?
He,
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, Vernon.
Vernon
Oh, I'm
Travis,
sorry.
yeah.
From
Thought it-
Vernon Parent Trust.
Yeah, Vernon from Vernon.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Good discussion, guys. Okay.
Okay, that concludes Finance, Facility Services, and Insurance Report.
Thank you. Mr. Danzy.
Item 9A, this is a favorite one of mine, I'm sure. Discuss and consider 2025 board meeting calendar. And I think everyone has a copy.
And Ms. Kanika just continued what we've been doing.
Right, I kept the first two Tuesday dates of each month. I did not see any problems with any holidays coming up, looking into the 2025 calendar. I did not find the dates, though, for the Tri-State Conference, which is usually in June. So if anything, depending on when they release those dates, that may be a conflict, but I
I
didn't see
think that's
any.
normally in July.
I mean, July, I'm sorry.
The last week of July, I think.
We'll move it if we have to.
Okay, but
mean,
yeah, I
that's-
didn't
last
see
week
any
of July.
conflict.
I mean, we're this far out, we just
Yeah,
take a stab at it.
so this one was pretty easy. It didn't fall within any major holidays where we had to move anything, so.
Or federal elections or anything like that.
Yeah, so I think the closest thing was maybe Labor Day falls on the first, and the first Tuesday is the first Tuesday is the second. But other than that, I didn't see any major conflicts that would prevent y'all from keeping it on the first 2 Tuesdays of the month.
Watch the superintendent's head explode. Don't we start school on Labor Day this year? Okay.
Item 9B, discuss and consider reclassifying NPTCC from a school to alternative program beginning in 25-26 school year.
Yeah, board members, this is from our previous discussions. All this doesn't change anything for the teachers, the principal, the students. This is just really a kind of a housekeeping item with LDOE, and it's what the majority of programs like this are classified in the state. There's only around 20, I think I told y'all 24 or maybe 28 full-blown schools, and this will allow us to do some neat things in terms of our staff being more impactful because lower student body count, also giving responsibility for those students from the sending school, which is helpful in terms of tracking those students and ensuring that they don't fall through the cracks. So any questions on that? I felt like we covered it pretty substantially.
We're gonna give more specific information so the public will be aware of the changes that we're looking
So,
at.
I mean,
Discussed
I can go into anything, but there's two things
Run
that
and pass it, sir.
I think I went into depth with y'all about a lot of programming changes, which are somewhat separate from this piece. This piece is just, like I said, it's really just, it's a bureaucratic housekeeping thing between us and LDOE. The programmatic changes that are going to be happening will happen regardless, and that's a lot of what Ms. Pinckney talked to y'all about in terms of the social, emotional, mental health, and all that. Which, if y'all would like, she could come speak to the board sometime in January about the direction she's going with that. But those are kind of two separate things. It's just I spoke to y'all about both of them at the same time.
I think that might be a good idea.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that I think most of the board are aware of the changes that are being proposed and worked on. But I think overall, the public
Yeah.
needs to be aware.
And they're all
And
positive
that
things.
The parents will be made aware, but the public overall needs to be aware
Yes, ma'am.
of the changes.
I can get with Ms. Pinckney and get her lined up in January to come speak to y'all kind of about the other side of that stuff, all the good stuff that they have going on. So no problem.
Thank you.
Any others? Item 9C, discuss and consider entering executive session. That will be for next Tuesday.
You don't need one. You know these numbers.
Yeah.
Item 9C, discuss and consider entering the executive session and the exiting the executive session. That concludes.
Thank you. Okay, board members, and I need to get one for the couple of board members that are out. You have in front of you the superintendent's evaluation, and you actually have the scores on the back page for the metrics for the prior school year. So when you complete his evaluation and bring it in for next Tuesday night, if we go into an executive session, we'll have the ability to have a very, very thorough discussion and finish his evaluation. Are any questions so far on that evaluation? I'd like to take a moment and hopefully I don't want to violate what we just talked about, but express my and our appreciation to Ms. Lacaze and your staff and all the school staff for the outstanding scores and we're using that word scores again. The ranking of what you've done as a special needs organization to help us and help these students. Thank you very much.
And we are going to do a special post about that, but we just haven't. Some of this information took a little while to disaggregate. So,
And I want to thank Ms. Phelps for leading the discussion on that evaluation. Hey, look, guys, it is what we have, and I appreciate the opportunity for us to do that. I also appreciate the conversation of those two items that we needed to pay attention to. I mean, that's the truth. It is there. Board members, anything else to discuss? Okay, we will see you next Tuesday night. Thank y'all.
board members,